Welcome to Behind Closed Doors. Lock your doors, turn down the lights, and let the silence in. We often fear the violent end, don't we? We anticipate the sudden crash. We brace ourselves for the sharp, chaotic pain of a physical confrontation. We believe that karma must arrive like a thunderstorm, loud, destructive, and undeniable. But the most terrifying punishments in this universe, the true manifestations of dark karma, are completely, utterly bloodless. They do not break you. They do not tear you apart. They simply absorb you. Look at the leather. Look closely at the deep, dark brown material of the Chesterfield sofa, right where it meets his wrists. It is no longer just resting passively against his skin. It is rising, slowly, softly, like a dark, heavy tide, creeping up the shores of his physical body. There is no sudden snap of a mechanical trap. There is no sharp, agonizing pain to fight against. The profound horror of this moment lies entirely in its supreme, inescapable gentleness. The vintage leather stretches and elongates, seamlessly wrapping itself around his forearms. It feels just like a heavy blanket. It feels exactly like the comfort he so desperately craved just a few minutes ago. He tries to pull away to assert his human dominance over the inanimate, but his muscles find no leverage. The material does not fight him. It simply yields slightly and then tightens, a suffocating, flawless embrace. He asked the room to hold his weight, to carry his emotional burden so he wouldn't have to. And the room has made its decision. It will carry him forever. The physical boundary between the man and the furniture is actively, permanently dissolving. He is being woven slowly, exactly the way you've been disappearing for years, directly into the fabric of his own apathy. What is the fundamental difference between a living, breathing human being and a piece of wooden furniture? It is agency. It is choice. It is the miraculous capacity to move, to react, to reach out and touch the world around us. When you consistently choose to be completely numb, when you intentionally transform yourself into a silent, unfeeling obstacle in the lives of the people who desperately love you, you are already halfway to becoming an object. The room is simply finishing the biological process. Notice the texture of his skin beneath the cold, flickering blue light of the unseen television. It is losing its warmth. It is losing its human flush. The wrinkles on his light blue dress shirt are beginning to perfectly mimic the deep age creases of the dark brown leather beneath his spine. His breath slows down, not out of relaxation, but out of a forced mechanical assimilation. He is being systematically stripped of his autonomy. Every heavy, selfish sigh he exhaled into these cushions over the years is now forming the physical glue that binds his physical form to the wooden frame. He wanted to be a permanent fixture in this room, a silent observer, completely free from the exhausting, messy obligations of emotional connection. The universe, in its dark, infinite wisdom, is granting him his ultimate wish. He is becoming exactly what he practiced being, a heavy, useless thing, a silent occupant of a dark room. But to be truly, perfectly isolated, the very concept of the outside world must be completely eradicated. Watch the edges of his reality. Watch the familiar, comforting walls of his living room. The wallpaper, the framed family photographs, the polished wooden floorboards, they are beginning to peel away, not in a chaotic, destructive collapse, but in a slow, methodical erasure, like an old photograph left out in the harsh, unforgiving sun for far too long. The colors drain rapidly into a flat, suffocating gray. The architectural boundaries of the room dissolve into an endless, featureless expanse of absolute nothingness, a liminal void, a space entirely between spaces, devoid of time, devoid of weather, devoid of any external interference. This is the profound, terrifying architecture of his punishment. He spent years, decades, building invisible walls between himself and his family. He spent his entire adulthood constructing a personal, impenetrable fortress of silence. Now, those invisible walls have become his entire literal universe. There is no door to walk through anymore, because he proved time and time again that he had absolutely no intention of using it. The house has detached him, has completely severed the unfeeling, disconnected thread of his existence, and cast him adrift in a sea of his own making. He is the undisputed king of a completely empty castle, anchored eternally to a throne of dark leather, with absolutely nothing left to rule. Yet, the dark karma of this universe is never quite that simple. Pure, empty isolation eventually just becomes a dull, painless sleep. And this is not meant to be a rest. This is an education. To truly understand the crushing, suffocating weight of your own absence, you must be forced to witness it. Out of the gray, suffocating fog of the liminal void, shapes begin to form, phantoms, the vibrant, colorful echoes of the beautiful life he willingly threw away. His wife walks right past the edge of the sofa. Her face is stained with tears. She speaks, her voice a hollow, echoing whisper, asking a desperate question to an empty room. His child runs past the leather armrest, dropping a small toy on the invisible floor. Mark screams. He throws the entire desperate force of his soul against the confines of his own paralyzed vocal cords. He wants to say he is sorry. He wants to reach out his hand. He wants to shatter the glass of this silent prison, but his lips do not part. The only sound that escapes into the void is the slow, agonizing creak of old wood and the tight, strained stretching of leather. He is trapped entirely behind his own eyes. A silent, desperate prisoner, forced to eternally watch the devastating consequences of his apathy unfold on an infinite, unchangeable loop. He wanted to be left alone. He is. He is completely, utterly alone, right in the exact middle of his own family. Consider, for a moment, the sheer arrogance of human perception. We walk through our homes entirely convinced that we are the absolute masters of our domain. We look down at our possessions, we sit upon them, we stand over them, we believe, with a foolish, unshakable certainty, that because a thing does not speak, because it does not breathe, it is inherently beneath us. But true power does not need to shout. True authority does not require movement. Look up. Look at him now. The perspective has fundamentally, irrevocably shifted. You are no longer looking at a man resting on a piece of furniture. You are looking through the unseen eyes of the room itself. You are witnessing the absolute terrifying inversion of the hierarchy. From down here, from the deep, dark crevices of the vintage leather, Mark is no longer a master. He is no longer a father, a husband, or an employee. He has been entirely stripped of his complex human titles. From the perspective of the silent witness beneath him, he is merely raw material. He is a heavy, dense accumulation of neglected emotions, finally being processed. Look deeply into his eyes. They are wide open, locked in a state of permanent, silent screaming. The panic is absolute, but the muscles in his face are entirely rigid. The transformation is in its final agonizing stage. He is experiencing the ultimate, inescapable terror of complete paralysis, while his mind remains entirely awake, entirely aware of his own erasure. There is no malice here. That is the most difficult concept for the human mind to grasp. We want to believe in monsters. We want to believe that if something punishes us, it must be evil. It must hate us. Because if it hates us, at least it acknowledges our importance. At least it means we matter. But the objects in your living room do not hate you. The dark brown leather of the Chesterfield sofa holds absolutely no grudge against Mark. It does not feel anger. It does not feel triumph. It operates entirely on the cold, flawless logic of dark karma. It is merely a mirror, a highly absorbent, physical mirror. For years, Mark treated his family as if they were invisible. He treated the emotional space of this house as an empty void where he could simply dump his apathy without consequence. He forced his wife and child to exist in a state of constant, agonizing isolation while he remained physically present. So, the universe, operating through the dense fibers of this inanimate object, is simply balancing the equation. It is giving him exactly what he practiced. Complete, total immobility, absolute isolation. He is being preserved, perfectly preserved as a permanent monument to his own indifference. His physical form is being compressed, flattened, and woven into the very structure of the room. He is no longer a person. He is a consequence. And just like that, the audit is complete. The transaction is finalized. Watch the edges of the frame. The suffocating gray expanse of the liminal void, the terrifying space between spaces, simply blinks out of existence. It retracts, pulling back into the shadows as if it was never there at all. The familiar walls of the living room snap back into reality. The wooden door frame solidifies. The warm, deceptive glow of the corner lamp flickers back to life. The television seamlessly resumes its broadcast, filling the empty room with the canned laughter of a late-night talk show. The illusion of normalcy is instantly, flawlessly restored. Listen, you can hear the heavy, exhausted footsteps of his wife walking down the hallway. She pauses at the door. She looks into the living room, her eyes scanning the dim light. She sees the television. She sees the shadows, but she does not see Mark. He is gone, erased completely from the physical dimension of her life. She sighs, a sound of profound exhaustion and quiet relief, assuming he simply went to bed without a word, just as he has done 1,000 times before. She turns the light off. She closes the door. She leaves him exactly where he has always been, completely alone. This is the ultimate chilling perfection of the trap. There is absolutely no evidence of a crime. There is no shattered glass, no signs of a struggle, no messy, complicated explanations required. The room has simply absorbed the toxicity, processed the apathy, and reset the stage. The dark brown Chesterfield sofa sits perfectly still in the quiet darkness of the living room. It looks exactly like it did yesterday. It looks exactly like a harmless, comforting piece of vintage furniture. But look closer. Look very, very closely. Right there in the center of the cushions, there is a new, subtle indentation. A permanent, heavy depression in the foam, exactly the size and shape of a grown man. And there, on the smooth expanse of the leather armrest, a fresh, jagged scratch. A tiny, permanent scar left behind by a desperate fingernail, trying to hold on to a reality that was actively dissolving. These are the only remnants, the only physical proof that a man named Mark ever existed in this space. They are the receipts of his dark karma. The room is silent once again. The hunger has been temporarily satiated. The heavy, negative energy has been perfectly digested. The sofa returns to its primary function. It rests. It waits in the shadows. It is incredibly patient. It knows with absolute certainty that tomorrow is another exhausting day. It knows that eventually the door will open. Someone else will walk in, carrying the heavy, unbearable weight of their own neglect. They will look at the soft, inviting leather. They will sigh, and they will sit down.